My name is Phyllis Street, and my husband and I moved here in 1984 to Sun City West. And we had friends that had moved here previously, and my husband was very often out here for some hearings that he had had. So he said, you know, that's really a nice place to live. And so we came out in July of one year to see how really hot it was in July. But we had both been raised in Kansas, so it didn't seem too hot to us. And so we did decide that we would pick out a lot, and we picked out the 36th lot that was picked out in Sun City West, but we didn't move out here until '84. But when the house was finished, we just had a realtor handle it, and it was rented until we were ready to move in, and it still looked like a new house when we moved in. Sun City West, they broke ground in 1978 for it, and they did start people moving in December. And the amenities were not in yet. That was the difference between Sun City West and Sun City. In Sun City, it was all already here, even the shopping center. But Hillcrest Golf Course was the only one that was really in. And so it took several months before they really had the amenities that they wanted. And if you want a little interesting story, Del Webb Corporation did subsidize the rec centers here in Sun City with about a $35,000 grant so that the people in Sun City West that started moving in could use their facilities. But it didn't turn out to work very well because the people in Sun City said, no, we don't want all those people in Sun City West coming over. Well, there really were not very many people in Sun City West at the time, but it didn't work out very well. So they arranged a lot of entertainment for them, and the Del Webb Corporation would take them to the Suns games, and they would plan little trips and just really saw all kinds of things around in Arizona. So they kept it pleasant until the Johnson Rec Center was finished, and then they were on their own. Well, my first interest in it was the time when my husband had been asked to be on the board, and they were having an open house for the Sun City Saints, who had been a young woman's baseball team out here, softball, I guess that's what they called it. Anyway, they were a very popular group, but they had disbanded. They were no longer playing out here, but we decided to have a reunion of the ones that were still here. And so they had a big open house for them here, and my husband said, you know, the women are going to need some help in fixing the hot dogs and the popcorn, so why don't you come over and help them? And I said, well, sure, I will. And one thing led to another, and then I agreed to be a hostess, and I was a hostess for several years. And then when my husband died, they asked me to be on the board. And so I have been on the board for the last 8 years. We really were working hard to preserve the history, and it's a day-to-day thing. We have different people clipping things from the local newspapers, anything that we feel is really of historical interest and will be 50 years, 100 years from now. And they clip them, and we copy that on acid-free paper, and it goes into our files, listed according to subject matter. And we try to keep up. It's really a big job. And we even clip the obituaries out of the News Sun every day, and now they're running nearly 200 a month. It gets big around in the winter months. It may slack off a bit in the summer, but it is a daily job. We wanted to really be a part of that celebration, and the whole board worked on this. It wasn't all my idea, but we did decide to divide it into the decades, and we just tried to pick out the things that were important. And you have to start on one side here, and you go around, and then the other 2 decades are in the other room. But we tried to pick out the things that were of most interest to people. And we thought we would not have this up all year, but everybody that came, oh, I haven't seen it before, and it's appealed to them, and so we have left it up the whole year. Now we wonder what we're going to put up next.
Is there a theme for each of the decades? The 60s would have been the start.
Yes, it begins the opening day, and then the second group of rec centers. And then we brought in the hospital when it was built, as they needed that. And then all the entertainment. And the other side over here are just examples of the kind of activities the volunteers participate in, all the clubs and the leisure activities. And the visionaries are on the other side, the front here. The prides are one of the first things that got organized because people wanted to be sure that the community really looked good. And they organized a group that every Saturday morning gets out and cleans up anything that needs cleaning up along the main boulevard there, the ones that are not kept up by the county. And you see them out every Saturday morning. And then they do have a good time after they finish their work. They go have breakfast somewhere. I've never done that myself, but apparently they enjoy it very much. Well, certainly the Del Webb Corporation made it seem like retirement can be a really active part of your life, and that's true. I mean, when we moved out here, there were different things. If you get bored out here, it's your own fault, because there's so many opportunities and things that you can do in real volunteer community services, as well as your own hobbies too, because the craft shops are just full of all kinds of beautiful things that people make. I've never gotten around to that, but I've done other things I've been involved in. Well, I think it is important to the community in the years ahead, and I just kind of got involved in it, and it's hard to let go, so I'm hanging in there.
What keeps you going? You keep discovering new things, or?
Yes, the history is really interesting. I mean, more things you find, and it's kind of interesting too. You read the different magazines and different reports, and sometimes you don't get the same story. So then you kind of wonder, now, was I right to begin with what I tell, or am I telling the wrong story? We have been getting that because we are starting this history of Sun City West, and we have alerted people, and they've called us, and I've gone and picked up boxes. In fact, I have a box out in my car now that are directories of different clubs and lots of the newsletters that fortunately people saved. And we don't have as many in the 90s, though, as we do for the 70s and 80s. People kept them for a long time. They were a nice size that they could easily put in a box, but then